John chapter 12, 34 through 36. The crowd spoke up. We have heard from the law that the Messiah will remain forever, so how can you say the Son of Man must be lifted up? Who is this Son of Man? Then Jesus told them, you are going to have the light just a little while longer. Walk while you have the light before darkness overtakes you. Whoever walks in the dark does not know where they are going. Believe in the light while you have the light, so that you may become children of light. When he had finished speaking, Jesus left and hid himself from them. I have just dropped you right in the middle of a scene right now, and if you're not familiar with the story, you're going to be a little bit lost. It kind of reminds me of one of those shows on the History Channel. I'm a sucker for the History Channel. Anybody like that? Or Discovery? Love those channels. The show where they take this survival expert and they fly him up in an airplane and they just drop him in the middle of nowhere and he has to find his way back. Love those shows. He's always Australian, and so he finds his way back. He's like, oh, I found civilization. And he's always just pumped about wherever he gets. Today, I don't want to drop you out of the airplane and let you find your way back. I want to back up real fast. So we started in chapter 12. Allow me to back up to chapter 11 and catch you up very quickly. At the beginning of 11, Lazarus is sick. Jesus isn't there. And Jesus hears about it, but by the time he gets there, Lazarus has already died. But we know from the story that Lazarus won't stay dead. And Jesus brings Lazarus from the grave. And this is a huge, huge deal, because Jews right and left begin putting their faith in Jesus because what they have heard and what they have seen through Lazarus. And per usual, somebody's not very happy about it. Jesus does a lot of things that people aren't happy about. The chief priests, the Pharisees, began the topic of conversation of how can we kill this Jesus? And not just Jesus, but now it's Lazarus as well. How can we kill Lazarus? Because so many people are coming to the faith because of him. And then we jump ahead 6 days before the Passover festival, and Jesus arrives in Bethany, where Mary does something that even she doesn't quite understand the full gravity of, as Jesus is anointed as king. And the very next day, we hear and see another incredible prophecy that is fulfilled as Jesus rides into Jerusalem on a donkey, and what we know as the triumphal entry of Jesus. And then we reach chapter 20, or verse 20 of chapter 12. And Jesus again predicts his own death, but this time it's a little bit different, because every point up until now that Jesus has predicted his death, the time had not yet come. But now, the time had come for the Son of Man to be glorified. And it was a big deal. But the people don't understand. They don't get why this has to happen. And so that is where we pick up in verse 34. And so the crowd speaks up, saying, we don't understand. They speak up. They say, we have heard from the law that the Christ will remain forever. So how can you say the Son of Man must be lifted up? Who is this Son of Man? They're saying, Jesus, obviously you are so much smarter than we are. We're not making any bones about that. We're not trying to deny that. We know you're smarter, but please make this clear to us, because we don't understand. We know that from the law, the Son of Man will remain forever. How can you say that? And they didn't understand because they weren't looking for the right kind of Messiah. See, they didn't understand because, like a lot of people today, and I'm going to put myself in this category, we have this predisposition to pay attention to some Scripture and ignore other parts of it. They had this predisposition to pay attention to Scripture like Psalm 110 and Psalm 89 and Psalm 21, which spoke to the perpetuity of the Messiah, that he would be a priest forever, that he would be a king forever, that he would reign eternally, from which they inferred that their Messiah would never die. But they ignored Scripture like Daniel 9 and Isaiah 53 that said the Messiah must be cut off, that he would pour out his soul unto death, that his hands and his feet must be pierced. And so they said, Jesus, help us out here, because we know that from the law, we've studied it, we've been taught it, we've read it, we know that from the law, our Messiah isn't going to die. He can't die. He won't die. How can you say that he must be lifted up? Who is this Son of Man? Now we rewind back to 32 where Jesus makes this original statement that the Son of Man must be lifted up. He says, "But I, when I am lifted up from the earth, will draw all people to myself." I'm about to throw a very theological term at you this morning, so write this down. All through the New Testament, we have what we call SCJSs. SCJSs, super cool Jesus statements. That's real theological for you this morning. That's about my level. Super cool Jesus statement right here. It's twofold. So check this out. He says, the Son of Man must be lifted up. It's a literal elevation, and it's a spiritual exaltation. And so it's a literal elevation that Jesus will literally be nailed, hands and feet to a cross, and they will lift him from the ground up off the earth. But it's a spiritual exaltation because here it is time for the Son of Man to be glorified. The price will be paid. It will be finished. It's the culmination of the life and the ministry of Jesus Christ. And it is beautiful. Jesus is exalted on, by, and through the cross. People understood that literal meaning of being lifted up. They knew what it meant. But they didn't understand why. And they didn't understand the bigger picture. Jesus tries to explain it, though, and he says, through it, I will draw all men to myself. And what he means by that is not a way of implying a universal salvation where all men are saved in eternity as a byproduct of his sacrifice and his death, but rather that all men will have the opportunity to come into a relationship with him. And if they don't, that was their choice. That was their choice. The Son of Man must be lifted up. Jesus, how can you say this? They're still confused. How can you say the Son of Man must be lifted up? The hardest class I ever took in college was a physics and aerodynamics class. I see Vince sitting over here. He's a real smart guy, so he might have taken something like this, and he probably whizzed through it. But for me, not quite. I took this class, and if you've ever been in this situation, it's very frustrating to know that for the next hour and 15 minutes, twice a week, for the remainder of the semester, you will walk in, sit down, and not understand a single thing that's going on. I did okay in school. I did okay, but there, no sir. I did not know what was going on. A flywheel for a single piston engine rotates at an average speed of 1,500 RPM. During half a rotation, the flywheel has to absorb 1,000 joules of energy. If the maximum permissible speed fluctuation is plus or minus 60 RPM, what is the minimal rotational inertia of the flywheel, assuming there is no friction? Jesus, I don't understand. I know that I was sitting down there in class, and I was trying to take notes, and I was saying, Jesus, I don't get this. I don't know what's going on. How can you say the Son of Man must be lifted up? Verse 35 and 36 is such a classic Jesus response. Let's just see what he says. 35. Then Jesus told them, you are going to have the light just a little while longer. Walk while you have the light, before darkness overtakes you. Whoever walks in the light does not know where they are going. Believe in the light while you have the light, so that you may become children of the light. What? Jesus, I love the light. I'm thankful for the sun. I love the light switch when I come into my house. That is super cool. That's a super deep response. But what in the world does that have to do with what I just asked you? I have pet peeves, like everyone else in this room, whether you admit it or not. Some of us just have that personality type where we find pleasure in telling you. One of my pet peeves here, I'm one of those people. I need to get better at that. One of my pet peeves is when I come up to someone and I have a question, and I ask them that question. I've specifically come to them for an answer, and they don't give me an answer. They don't answer my question. It bothers me. It frustrates me. If I come to you with a specific question, I expect an answer if you have one. And on the surface here, That's the way that this can look. It looks as though Jesus totally ignores the question, but that's really not the case. You see, by not answering the immediate question, what Jesus does is actually answer it in the most powerful way possible. Because his response says, stop. Stop. Stop worrying about your law. He said, I know from the law. I know from what I've been taught and what I've studied, and I know from the law that my Messiah isn't going to die. And he's saying, stop worrying about your law. Stop worrying about what you were taught, and stop worrying about what you thought. If you so desperately, and I can tell you're desperately concerned about this, if you so desperately want to be concerned about something, be concerned with what I'm about to say to you. And Jesus begins what is his final exhortation to the crowds. After this, he speaks, but he only speaks to individuals or his disciples. This is the final thing that he speaks to the crowd. It must be pretty important. So, church, who is the light? Tell me. Jesus. Jesus is the light. John 8:12, I am the light of the world. 1 John 1:5, God is light. Psalm 119:105, your word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. Jesus is the Word. John 1:1, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Jesus is the Word, the incarnate Word, and the Word is the Word is a lamp, and the lamp is a light. And so Jesus is the light here. He's saying the light is leaving. I'm not going to be here with you much longer. And so this morning, if you're taking notes, if you have a pen, there are 3 very simple points that I pray in your Christian walk will help you flip this switch. First, if you're sitting in the room and you're saying, I really don't know about this. I'm not sure about Jesus. Seems like he does some really weird stuff. I'm not really sure about the Bible. I try to read it. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I'm not sure if I buy into this whole religion thing. But just let you know, we're not about religion. We're about relationship here. You're saying, I don't know. I really don't know about this whole thing. You're the one I want to talk to. Don't be weird about it. Just kind of sit there and hear me for just a quick second. Your first point this morning is walk to the light. It's as simple as it sounds. Walk to the light. 2,000 years ago, Jesus was saying, I'm not going to be here with you much longer. I am going to be lifted up. I know you don't get why, but I'm going to be lifted up. I'm not going to be here. So while you have me, walk to the light. While you have me walking next to you, literally down this dirt road, performing miracles, talking with you, preaching to you, walk to me now. Put your faith in me now. And the message for you this morning is exactly the same. It just sounds a little bit different. The message is, hey, guys, my name is Jesus. And I'm here and I'm knocking on your door because I want to have a relationship with you. And that funny feeling that you've been having in your stomach, that's me. That tug on your heart that you don't know where it came from, that's me. And those tears that were welling up in your eyes during the worship service that you were embarrassed about because you didn't know where they came from, that was me. That emotion that's welling up inside of you, that's me. You're having an encounter with me. I'm making myself real to you. You are experiencing my presence, and I'm just begging you. I am asking you, don't say no. Some of you in this room, don't say no again. Don't say no, because here's what Jesus really wants to say. I'm going to be here with you for the rest of your life. I'm going to be waiting on you every single day of your life. But if you continue to say no, soon those tears won't come to you. And soon that tug on your heart won't come. Soon that emotion won't well up. Soon you won't be able to feel my presence anymore because the darkness will have overtaken you. And it will have made your heart hard. Walk to the light while you have the light. I woke up the other morning around 3 a.m. I do that pretty regularly. I don't really know why. Usually I'm just thirsty. This particular morning, that's what it was. I walked over to my refrigerator, poured a glass of water, drank it, feeling satisfied, headed back to fall back asleep. And as I was walking, I just nailed my little toe on the side of my kitchen table. Let me tell you, that hurts. Hurts really bad. I'm convinced that the smallest things on the human body hurt the absolute most. But the deal is that the man in the dark doesn't know where he's going. Walk to the light while you have the opportunity. Now to the Christian, those of you sitting in the room who have placed your faith in Jesus. Whether that was 60 years ago or 60 seconds ago, I pray somebody put their faith in Jesus 60 seconds ago. Point number one for you is not walk to the light. You've already taken that step. You've been there. It is walk with the light. I don't know about you. I'm going to sit right up here, or stand rather. I'm going to stand right up here in this pulpit, and I'm going to be honest with you. Sometimes my Christian walk isn't very easy. Sometimes living a Christian life seems like it really stinks. There are days when I don't want to read my Bible. There are days when I do not want to pray. There are days when I do not want to be kind. There are days when I do not want to love my neighbor. There are days when I wake up and my attitude says, I am not having a good day, and I'm going to go out there and make sure that no one else does. You know what I mean? I'm just being honest with you. But we persevere. And we discipline ourselves for those times so that even when we're not feeling it, we're growing. I have students tell me that all the time. I'm just not getting the same feeling when I'm reading my Bible. I'm in worship and I'm singing and I'm raising. I'm just not getting the same feeling. I'm not getting the same thing. You're not always going to get the feeling. You're not always going to be feeling it, but that's why we persevere, and that is why we discipline ourselves for those times so that even when I'm just not feeling it, I'm still growing. There are other times in my walk where I'm on fire. I'm ready to get out of the pulpit here. I'm ready to get out of the church. I'm just ready to go share the gospel because I'm excited about what God's doing in my life. I'm excited about what God is doing in the lives of these students, what He's doing in our student ministry, what He's doing in our church as a whole, what He's doing with the building, what He's going to do with the building in the future. I'm just pumped up about it all, and I want to go share it with somebody. And Jesus is saying, you're not always going to have the light. You're not always going to feel me so strongly. You're not always going to feel me working in your life. You're not always going to want to pray. You're not always going to want to wake up and do your morning Bible study. But when you do, walk with me. When you do, walk with me. And when you don't, walk with me. Walk with me. Caleb, what do you mean? Enjoy me. This isn't a burden. This isn't bondage. I'm not putting you in chains. This is freedom. This is a privilege. This is an honor. Enjoy me. Enjoy my gifts. Enjoy what I have given you. Take delight in being my disciple because it's the highest calling that there is. Enjoy me. Flip that switch. Walk to the light if you have never placed your faith in Jesus. And if you have, walk with it, baby. Walk with it. Point number 2. Trust in the light. Comes out of verse 36. Put your trust in the light while you have it. I really enjoy hammocking. Anybody else? Hammockers. That's not a word. Hammockers? Okay. I really enjoy hammocking. I think it's cool. It's pretty fun. I have more hammocks than I need. I don't know why. I don't hammock that much. I have like 4 different hammocks. I bought one that was a single nester, and I realized I was too big for that, so I needed the double nester. That's what they're called if you're not a hammocker. Double nest, single nest. So I like to hammock, and maybe it's just me, or maybe it's just that I'm a pretty big guy. But every time I go and I hammock, it's pretty much the same story. I string it up between two trees. I get it all nice and tight. I'm cinching it up as tight as I can. And as soon as I'm getting ready to lay down in that hammock, I've got a little apprehension. I'm not a lot. No, I'm not like super nervous, but I've got just a little bit of apprehension because that net there is pretty thin. I'm a pretty big guy, okay? So I do one of these numbers, and as if I'm doing this awkward stance and putting my hand in the air is going to keep me from hurting myself if I fall. I do that because I've got a little apprehension, and what I'm thinking is I'm kind of heavy, okay? That fabric looks pretty weeny, looks pretty thin. I don't know about this. I might just go through, and if I go through, that's really going to hurt. And if I go through and it hurts, I'm probably going to hurt my butt. And then I'm going to have to walk around all day and looking all funny, and people are going to make fun of me, and they're not going to want to be my friend. And if they don't want to be my friend, they're not going to invite me to stuff. If they don't invite me to stuff, I'm going to have to get a cat, and I'm going to have to sit at home all by myself, and the cat's that's going to be my only friend. And I just don't want to fall through because I'll hurt my butt, and I'll have to go through all of that. I know it's rated at 400 pounds. I'm not near that. But come on, it's pretty thin. And I think, guys, if we're not careful, we tend to treat God a little bit like my hammock. It's never failed us in the past. Never, not once. We've been given assurance after testimony, after warning, after caution, after testimony, after everything, assurance that this thing is rated to handle us. And once we're in it, it feels right. But the apprehension lingers, saying, personally, I've got a really difficult time trusting anything outside of myself. Every single day, many times a day, I walk into a room, walk into my house, into the bathroom, into my office, into the youth room upstairs, and I do the same thing. I flip on the light switch so that I can see. Never, ever does it even cross into my mind that light is not going to turn on. Of course, the light is going to turn on. That's what electricity does. In my mind, that's what happened with the cavemen. The cavemen hiked up their mountain in their loincloth, and they walked into their cave, and on the side of the cave, they flipped their light switch, and these fluorescent lights came on, and that's how the cavemen saw, because that's what electricity does. That's what electricity is supposed to do. It just turns on, and I never think that it won't work. And I want my relationship with Jesus to look like my relationship with my light switch. I want my relationship with Jesus to look like my relationship with the light switch. I want my relationship with Jesus to be so characterized by trust that when I'm stressed out and I've got 1,500 things going on and my old red truck decides it wants to die again for like the 18th time, that when I'm struggling with some certain temptation to sin, that when I've received some hard truth that is really, really difficult for me to swallow, that when someone has come to me and they've shared a burden with me that's super heavy and now I'm carrying that with them, that when I'm struggling with a friendship or relationship that is broken and I don't know how to fix it, that when I've lost my temper, then all I want to do is sit and pout and be mad. What I really need to go do is apologize, that when I've paid my bills and everything that I need to pay and there isn't much left and everything is really, really tight, that when I've been jumping from thing to thing to thing, and I just feel like I've been pouring out, and now I'm empty, and I'm tired, and I don't know where the next spiritual gas station is going to come from. I don't know when it's going to get here. And then when God seems like He's 1,000 miles away, church is the last place that I want to be. The Bible is the last book that I want to open. That when school is pressing and classes are hard and sports are frustrating and college is looming and expectations are high, I want my relationship with Jesus to be like my relationship with my light switch. That when all of that is pressing in and pressing down, I know my God is going to come through. I know my God is going to come through. That kind of trust is the switch that I am working on flipping. Last point. Comes out of verse 36, latter half. So that you may become sons of light. I love to watch movies. Any movie watchers in the house? Sorry I ask you guys a lot of questions. I like participation. I love to watch movies, but for me, I'm an environment guy. I'll explain what I mean by that. I really do not enjoy watching movies if all the lights are on. I just don't. It's not enjoyable for me if all the lights are on, the TV, the screen just kind of blends into the wall. And so, like, why should I watch my TV if I can watch this perfectly illuminated wall over here? Why should I watch my TV if I can watch this perfectly illuminated ceiling fan go round and around and around? Why should I watch my TV if I can watch the ceiling tiles and count how many there are? I mean, I like for my environment to be right, and so I turn all the lights off. I get it as dark as I possibly can, because when it's dark, you're drawn to the screen. It's the only light in the room. It pops out. It's just scientifically proven that a movie is better when it's dark. It is. See, we're all living in a big, big dark room. Big dark room. And you're showing a movie. And it's a good one. You're showing the best film that's ever been shown. The best film that's ever been made, and it's bright, and it's beautiful, and people are drawn to it. But the issue is that we have a lot of Christians who are going through their life in this dark, dark world, pretending like all the lights are still on. You have a beautiful movie that Jesus has placed inside of you, that he is playing through you, so let that shine. Share that movie with this dark world. Jesus says in Matthew 5 that lamps aren't meant to sit under bowls. That's not where they're supposed to be. This isn't meant to have that makes me think that lampshades really aren't biblical. I don't know about you. But lamps are not meant to sit under bowls. They're meant for stands, to be up high so the whole house is visible, so that everyone in that house can see. The image, when I read this scripture, of an Olympic athlete comes to my mind, carrying a torch into the games, because as sons and daughters, we are not merely light, or we are not merely children of light, but we are vessels. And we are stewards. We are bearers of that light, and as such, our light is to be carried and shared to every corner of the earth. Matthew 28:18-20, then Jesus came to them and said, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me, therefore go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to observe everything that I have commanded you. Church, my prayer for you is that you would enjoy walking with Jesus. That trust in your relationship would never, ever be a question. And that you would share the light that you have inside of you. FBC, this morning, it's time to flip the switch.